Hey everyone, this is Christof,
And this is Robin.
And Luke here.
and you're about to listen to the second of our special edition episodes back from our Leviathan vaults. You've listened to Internal Affairs. Last week, we finished the conclusion of that. And, it's funny, I've said before that Internal Affairs was one of my favorite of our special edition episodes. But what we're going to listen to now is a new episode called The Rogue Plague. And I think it's one of the most ambitious in scope that we did at the time. It was one of our biggest casts that we have at the time. I remember really scrambling to get all the voices that we needed because it was a big cast.
You can
And
definitely
this-
hear in some scenes that we were scrambling for voices based on. Sorry to interrupt you there, Christof, but
Yeah, you might even recognize
it's-
two of the
it's
voices that we scrambled to get speaking to you right
Right
now. Christof and Luke both play characters in the opening of this one.
We do. You're going to hear not only Luke and I, but you'll actually hear my mother in one of the voices in the beginning. So it just gives you a sense of kind of how far we've come and what we were doing to try and bring production together, way back when. And I think this was what, Robin? This is
Yeah,
at
much
least
like
14,
we
15 years
released this
old.
one right after Internal Affairs. I think we produced them either at the same time or like one right after the other. So if Internal Affairs was 15 years old, this one is 14 years old in 10 months. So again, a big dive back into the vault to bring this out again.
And this episode was really meant to fill in some major gaps in the Leviathan story. The first being the origin story of Harlequinn. There was this great scene that I really enjoyed writing in, I think it was chapter 17 or 18, called Enter Leviathan. And this moment when the listener gets to finally see Evangeline and Harlequinn meet for the first time. And you've heard what some people have said about Evangeline, some people said about Harlequinn. And when they meet, they embrace lovingly, and that is at odds with everything that we thought we knew about these characters. So I wanted to use this episode to kind of talk about how they met and what each of their individual origins are. And in addition, we actually go into Angus McKay and how he first came into Evangeline's orbit and what his past was before establishing the salty squid in Leviathan.
and also you do get a little bit of Bennu origin story goodness in this particular segment of the episode as well. There's lots of sort of like origins happening.
Yeah, you're totally right, Luke. We go into some of the origins of what happened when Evangeline got her immortality and had to reconcile with her actions. But it was really fun revisiting this episode. We've done a little bit of effort to kind of spruce it up for modern times. Luke, I know that you did some work musically to kind of refresh this episode.
Yeah, so when we decided to go back into the vault and start bringing out these old special editions, Christof asked me as we've mentioned before, Christof asked me to go back and reconceptualize our Leviathan theme song kind of like in the mood or genre of each of these special edition features. And so this one was probably the one I was looking forward to doing the most. Just going back to this particular sort of medieval time period that this one takes place in offered me a chance to like take this kind of like super high tech heavy metal theme that we've had forever and like completely rethink it with classical instrumentation. I did use like some synthesizers and stuff like that to kind of like give it a bit of a sci-fi sheen, but I really like the way this one turned out, rethinking our theme song in a string arrangement basically.
It's really fun. It's really moody. It almost, I said this to you guys last week, like it almost reminds me of like the X-Files theme, which also ties in very well with this episode because there is some supernatural stuff that'll come down the road. But yeah, this episode was really fun to go back and revisit. I like how it's a really big kind of change of pace from both Internal Affairs, but also from kind of the usual Leviathan Chronicle stuff, which is evocative of these like big action movies. This one is kind of this more like slow paced, moody, like detective story set in medieval times. This was even, I believe, our first episode that we even brought in a different writer to help give us sort of a different mood. We
That's
had
right.
Lafferty, a great sci-fi and speculative fiction writer, come in and write a lot of this episode. I was wondering what I would think re-listening to this episode again after all this time, because, I remember that we had cast ourselves in a lot of parts, and there were a lot of sort of like goofy accents. The episode's supposed to take place in Scotland, but I don't know if there's even a single actual Scottish person doing this. So there's some kind of dicey Scottish accents. Harlequinn is supposed to be playing a Scottish priest. The actor who plays him, William, who's great, but he's an Englishman and he's just using his natural accent. It sounds great. But when I listened to it, I was surprised how charmed I was by it again. I think it's really fun to listen to, even with all those rough edges. There's some goofy history in there as well, but it all works for me. Bonus points to any listeners who can point out some of those our historical inaccuracies. We're aware of them, but it's always fun to hear about them.
Yeah, I think I've always sort of like cringed thinking back to all that stuff, but I think that enough time has passed since we made this one that we can kind of like listen to it and just kind of appreciate it for what it is, and it really does stand up. I'm looking forward to hearing what people think about it.
I am too. It'll be fun to listen to the rest of these episodes. The Rogue Plague is a pretty big special edition, so you'll be hearing more of it in the coming weeks, and we're really excited to bring this deeper dive into Evangeline's past, how a lot of important events are set into place. So there's really a lot of lore in this special edition episode, and we really hope you guys are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, so here it is, The Rogue Plague, Part 1. Enjoy, everyone.
There. It's going to be all right.
Please, Father, isn't there anything else you can do?
I'm afraid not. Your son Matthew's soul has left the grace of God.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, Father, it's just a fever. He's a good boy. Matthew's always
This is beyond young Matthew, Jonathan. I can see that now as I lay eyes on his broken body. The Lord has fought valiantly for his soul, but the forces of evil are growing stronger in the woods here in the Highlands. Your boy is not the first demonic possession I've seen.
A possession? But Father, Dr. McAllister was here yesterday. He was able to bring the fever down for a little while. For a few hours, Matthew could recognize us. He was speaking and asking about the heifer that got out through the broken gate. He's a good boy, Father, he is.
We both know that Matthew was as pure as one of the Lord's angels. But Satan is seduced by the most pious among us. He has infected Matthew with his lies, and now has taken his soul as his own.
Satan? Father, the boy is only 15. He knows nothing of evil, and it's just a fever. Please, Father, if you just...
Do not blasphemize my authority. I am a learned man of God, trained to fight the forces of evil. Look at your son, Jonathan. Look at him!
The tall priest grabbed Jonathan's hand and pulled him across the dirty main room of his farming cottage. The two stood at the doorway of the only other room in the dwelling where the entire family slept. The priest stared at the young boy writhing on the bed, covered in perspiration.
She's coming! I can feel her, the witch!
A rotten odor permeated the room, and the young boy's skin was hot pink with streaks of darker crimson running down his face like tears. His face appeared misshapen, and large dark spots of wet blood stained the left and right sides of his head. He thrashed against the sheets and was completely oblivious to his father's and the priest's presence in the room. He spoke manically in whispers, sometimes alternating into screams and fits. He was unable to hear or comprehend any of the words spoken to him, and he repeated his own perverted speech like a litany.
Evangeline!
My son.
Poor wretched soul. You see yourself, Jonathan, that he's possessed. He speaks now in tongues, conversing only with the demons that surround him.
No, Dr. McAllister said it could be a kind of rabies. He was bitten last week.
Look at him. He raptures with Satan, speaking of murder, deceit, and depravity. He even grows to resemble a demon more each hour.
Please, Father. The doctor was here for 2 days trying to help Matthew. He did everything he could with leeches and prepared an elixir of wormwood and lavender, but now he says there's nothing more he can do. He said he'd never seen a disease strike as fast as this, but you could talk to the church. Perhaps you could send for another doctor that knows more about it.
I will speak to the church this evening and send word to the Cardinal in Edinburgh.
Thank you, Father. You'll help him then.
Help him, my dear Jonathan. I will inform the Cardinal that if your Matthew survives through the night, we must burn him at the stake at dawn.
The Rogue Plague. A Leviathan Chronicles story. Part 1.
Your ladyship, Viceroy, the church is just over the bluff there, on the short side of the valley. You can see most of the city from there as well.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
I'm afraid you've done far worse than that. Are you sure about this, Evangeline?
I'm the leader of the immortal race and the defender of all mankind. I'm always sure.
Forgive me for noting that your previous interactions with the Church of England have not always unfolded in an amiable manner.
This one will be different.
And why do you say that?
Because he's different.
We'll see.
Come on now, Sherky, giddy up.
The year was 1556, and times were dark in what is now the United Kingdom. The Protestant Reformation hammered Scotland as the country struggled with its own Reformation, with both France and England demanding alliance through marriages. Closer to home, attendance in Mass was falling, and the Catholic Church was losing its hold on daily life. Priests across the land fretted over the future of their church, their flock, and looming on the horizon was the fear of the plague of Justinian, what we now call the Black Death, that seemed to strike once every generation. But many living deep in the remote Highlands of Scotland had been fallen by a mysterious plague, incurable, perverse, and unlike any other. Rumours spread of undead creatures roaming the night, spreading the disease on moonless evenings. The truth was that no one knew how the disease was spread, but the end result was always monstrous, and those afflicted seemed cursed. But for now, the misery of the remote Highland villages was far away from the small suburb of Edinburgh that was being approached by the richly appointed carriage inhabited by Evangeline and Bennu. The carriage drew to a halt outside a modest stone church that sat nestled in the green breast of Arthur's Seat. The two inhabitants exited the carriage and approached the entrance just as a tall young priest came peering out curiously. The holy man readied himself for a meeting with weary visitors, as he prided himself upon opening his church to assist poor and hired travellers. He was mildly shocked to see a clean, tall, red-headed woman striding towards his doors, followed by a man covered entirely in white Franciscan monk robes. He was more accustomed to fatigued, dirty travellers, and this tall and impressive woman, while dressed simply, had a regal air about her that spoke of nobility, wisdom, and considerable wealth. The priest turned to face the man.
Good afternoon, travellers. May I help you?
You may, Father. Can you tell us if we've found the Church of St. Nicholas?
Aye, indeed you have. And what brings two fine travellers such as yourselves to our humble church?
We've travelled a long way to the coast of Scotland to seek the counsel of a certain man of the cloth, a Father Harlequinn.
Well, it would appear you've succeeded again. I am Father Harlequinn, and let me welcome you to Edinburgh and my small parish. May God's blessings be upon you, sir.
Actually, you're addressing me, Father. My name is Evangeline, and this is my second, Bennu.
Father?
Apologies, my lady. Some time has passed since we've received visitors from far-off lands. From whence do you travel to our beautiful city?
From a city you've likely not heard of, far, far to the south.
I assure you that I'm quite learned in geography.
Perhaps oceanography would be a more suitable skill.
Bennu.
I'm sorry?
Father, we have travelled many days to come to Edinburgh, to come see you.
Me? I can't imagine why. I'm nothing more than a country priest.
It's your counsel we seek. You might have some insight into some unusual happenings further north in the countryside that we've been investigating.
What sort of happenings?
A small crowd had begun to congregate around the carriage as many local townsfolk peered at the strange visitors.
I'd feel more comfortable if we could move this conversation indoors, Father.
Of course, please.
Father Harlequinn extended his arm, leading Evangeline and Bennu into the sanctuary of his church.
So tell me, Miss Evangeline.
Just Evangeline is fine.
I'd be very appreciative to learn a little bit more about you and Mr. Bennu.
What is it you would like to know?
Outside you mentioned that you were conducting an investigation. Are the two of you employed by the sheriff? Did the Queen...
I assure you that we are not associated with any royalty or local authority.
Forgive me, but your clothing and carriage would suggest that the two of you are citizens of substantial means. What is it exactly that you do, Evangeline?
My roles are many, but I am a healer by profession. Specifically, I'm looking into some information on a possible plague north of your city. I wanted to ask you some questions about it.
A plague? I've heard nothing of a plague outbreak. Is there a plague in London, Paris, Rome?
No. None that I've heard. This is not the plague of Justinian that you fear. This appears to be a very different illness.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Is there some place we could speak more privately?
Yes, come into my office. I would hear more about this.
Evangeline followed him, her second keeping a respectful distance behind them. As they passed the altar, Bennu and Harlequinn genuflected and crossed themselves while Evangeline looked on. Harlequinn did not notice Evangeline's blasphemy, but Bennu shot her a cross look from under his hood.
Show some respect, Evangeline. You risk drawing attention.
I show more respect by not crossing myself. If I did, it would be false worship, which is hypocritical.
And do you forget the Inquisition? Heresy can be punishable by death.
I came here specifically because I heard this priest, Father Harlequinn, unlike his brethren, has a brain in his head and may listen to reason. We need him, Bennu. He just might see the benefit of healing his people over burning me at the stake. After all, we both know that's a futile exercise, don't we?
We do, Evangeline.
The trio walked down a set of narrow stone steps leading into the dim basement of the church. Crypts and adorned tombs flanked the trio on both sides as lambent candles cast macabre shadows on the wall.
Where are we going, Father?
This way.
Father, I don't think...
Just a bit further around the corner.
The cave-like interior of the church's dark lower levels reminded Evangeline of the catacombs of Leviathan, but being inside a church still made her feel uneasy. She perceived only the violence and hypocrisy of the religious wars that swept Europe. She peered longingly from the sides of her eyes to find water somewhere amongst the stone. Water to comfort and soothe her, but there was none, nor was there any escape route to her carriage if needed.
Enemy ground.
Here we are. My apologies for the gloom, but some of us find being surrounded by souls of the enlightened to be comforting. Please, my office.
The three of them assembled into Harlequinn's office, a simple but comfortably furnished room with red velvet-covered chairs and golden crucifixes on the walls. Harlequinn sat behind a battered oak desk and frowned at the two of them.
Evangeline and Bennu, please, no more mysteries. Please tell me the real reason of your visit. Opulent strangers do not often walk into our humble church, and your carriage would appear grander than that of a healer. Tell me of this plague you spoke of, or tell me your true intentions.
First of all, thank you for taking me seriously, Father. I promise you that we mean no harm to you or your congregation. We are seeking your help to combat a disease that I have seen many years ago and could kill an entire city of innocent people if left unchecked.
You can't be serious.
Father, the plague is insidious, and I fear may be creeping through the far northern villages, just beyond the scope of your flock. Those who suffer develop horribly red eyes while violent visions torment them. As the disease progresses, they become paralyzed and are able only to scream until blood vessels in their throats rupture. Their ears wither to nubs, and they often die with looks of utter terror on their face. It's a disease I have encountered before and successfully healed with a suffusion of saffron and other herbs. I wanted to know what you have heard, and most importantly, if any symptoms have been reported in Edinburgh.
Indeed, I have heard nothing of this. However, I must ask why you have heard of this disease, but no word has reached Edinburgh. It truly sounds like a punishment from Satan himself.
I'm afraid that's exactly the problem. Those afflicted are often mistaken for those your people would consider possessed, and therefore stigmatized. Father, may I have your leave to close the door? I wish to speak to you in private.
I am bound by my oath to the Lord our Father to keep any confidence.
Bennu stared at Evangeline, and without being told, rose and closed the heavy door with a thud. He stood sentry just outside to guard the conversation of his mistress.
Father Harlequinn, it is no coincidence that I have come to your church to ask for an audience. I have heard that you are a man of reason. One who, despite what your faith or your leaders tell you, will keep your head about your shoulders and do what is right.
You have heard? You seem to have heard a great deal about us here in Edinburgh. Where are you from again?
Father, I'll be direct. If the plague spreads here to a major population center, it will take more than prayer and faith in the Almighty to stop this disease. It will take medicine and science, some that may be unfamiliar to the God-fearing members of your community. Some methods that may be considered too secular by church doctrine.
What exactly are you suggesting, madam?
Evangeline.
Evangeline, I will not have you make suggestions that some form of sorcery be performed while in sanctuary of the Lord's...
Father Harlequinn, I make no such statements of blasphemy. And yet I don't remember hearing about your paranoia. But I will grant you that these are times where suggestions and allegations can prove lethal. Pope Paul is ramping up the Inquisition in Southern Europe. Even you must admit that the logical mind does not rule these turbulent days. And yet you lead your flock with kindness and reason. This is what has brought me to you. This disease was once considered God's punishment against heretics, the pagan unbelievers, and therefore Christians did not see it as a necessary affliction to cure. I fear that it will be seen as such again, that those who suffer from the violent toll it takes on their bodies will also suffer the persecution of the Church. People who contract the disease or whom witness or treat it will be loath to inform the Church for fear of punishment greater than the plague itself. Father Harlequinn, if this disease spreads, you will need medicine and my help to save the lives of those you care for.
Harlequinn leaned back in his chair and regarded this woman who seemed to know more about him than even his cardinal. She was right. However, as it was true that along with his love of the Almighty, Harlequinn did prefer to act on reason. He was secretly against the Inquisition, but he also knew that to speak against it would be to invite it into his own church, damning him and perhaps his fellow priests, and perhaps even the members of his own flock. Pope Paul, God bless his soul, was a vengeful man of God, who it was said imprisoned those who spoke against him, Catholic or Protestant. He could hear the earnestness of this woman, how desperately she wanted to help the sick, but he could also hear the screams of the tortured, his own voice among them, if he took a wrong step in dealing with her.
I understand your desire to help, but you are correct in the Inquisition's movements, and any help I may give you could be invalidated if I am found to be aiding a heretic. And you are a heretic, are you not, Evangeline?
I am the oldest kind of heretic, Father Harlequinn, although I never heard the words pagan witch before I met a Christian. But I give you my word that I am genuinely concerned about the health of your people, be they Catholic or the new Protestant religion or of the older Druid religions. I would like to discuss the matter further with you, Father, and, with your permission, show you some of the medicine we have. Might I suggest we meet on more neutral territory to discuss this further?
I was going to offer you lodging here, but you are not the average poor traveler, I gather.
Thank you for the offer, but I have arrangements already settled and would rather invite you to dinner with me at the pub near my place of lodging. I will meet you at the docks after Mass tonight. And thank you for listening, Father.
Evangeline rose and nodded to Harlequinn, while Bennu opened the door for her. For a brief instant, the light caught the hooded man's eyes, and Harlequinn could see the scars around them and the longing way he looked after his mistress. They exited his office, and Harlequinn thought for a moment about the peculiar meeting and what Evangeline had said, and then suddenly he realized that he had never actually agreed to dinner.
Evangeline, you know he's going to be just like the other priests, and at best you're going to have to urgently leave town in the middle of the night again before they hang you as a heretic.
He'll come, and he'll be discreet. He knows I speak the truth.
About the plague?
About him valuing reason. He's a priest, so he won't hold it higher than his love of your God, but he still holds reason higher than most.
I wish you wouldn't call him your God.
He's not mine, Bennu. I believe we've established that. And is he still yours?
The Lord delivered me from death into your arms. I still believe I am part of his divine plan.
Really? Then why did that priest in Birmingham disagree with that assessment?
The one whose church you burned to the ground?
A threat to me is a threat to the Eden Initiative, a threat to Leviathan City, and a threat to all immortals, including you. You would do well to remember this.
I remember it every day.
I did not notice you coming up with another suggestion after you insisted I not kill him for calling us witches and heretics and worse.
Well, he was misguided. But using your power to harm his church merely cemented his belief in our demonic drive.
I know, but the church itself says if one won't listen to reason, then one must listen to force.
That's not scripture.
I know, but it's in their actions.
You have me again. I can't argue with that.
Come, let us not argue, for we have a dinner guest to prepare for.
I assume you're going to let Angus cook for him.
He brews the best beer I've ever tasted, and that is saying quite a lot. Honestly, Bennu, are you going to complain about everything on this trip?
I can't be faulted for preferring the comfort of Leviathan City over the cold open seas or the hostile welcome we seem to receive more often than not.
Well, if not the beer, surely the company makes it worth it.
The company is the only reason I'm here. You know that.
Bennu moved his hand closer to Evangeline's without daring to touch her.
My dear friend, I need you on this trip, not only for company, but because you are one of the few people who knows these Christians intimately. There's no one else that I trust that has as much experience as you do. You've been with me since the beginning.
I'm glad to be of service to you, and there's nothing I wouldn't do to show you that. I know that I owe you everything, Evangeline. You changed my life and brought me out of the darkness I stumbled through for so long. In so many ways, you completed my...
We're arriving at the docks, milady.
Ah, there's our trusty ship, Bennu.
The carriage stopped before one of the long wooden piers that stretched out into the North Sea. At the very end was a squat two-mast schooner with a tiny bit of fragrant smoke wafting from its deck. Bennu and Evangeline boarded the Salty Crow, the sailing ship of one Angus McKay, whose recipe for beer and his general affability caused Evangeline to frequently charter his ship whenever she came to the surface. Often she preferred travel with immortals only, but sometimes it was nice to just let Angus do the work and pretend they had little else to worry them. The captain had a small crew, as per Evangeline's specifications, and Angus did all the cooking himself for his esteemed passengers. Angus long suspected his eccentric passengers were more than simple nobles, but he had not been informed of just how special they were. He assumed Evangeline was a member of royalty, escaping an unwanted marriage, or in moments of drunken imagination, wondered whether she was a gorgeous criminal fleeing a terrible crime. Regardless, she paid obscenely well, and was friendly, not to mention exquisitely beautiful to look at during the slow times, when the weather was clear and there was nothing to do but give menial tasks to his nephew and first mate.
Lady Evangeline, Bennu! I thought I heard footsteps. How did your meeting go? Are we set to set sail immediately like last time?
No, Angus, but thank you for being ready.
A messenger came by earlier to drop this off for you, Lady Evangeline.
Angus handed Evangeline a small letter that she opened.
What did it say?
Another outbreak of the plague, a few days north of Edinburgh. It's getting closer, Bennu.
Should I set sail, my lady?
No, not yet. We're at least staying the night. On the contrary, we're going to be hosting a very important priest for dinner this evening. So I'm going to ask that you prepare your best meal.
You're in luck, my lady. I just restocked the ship. We can do shrimp if you like, but I did just buy some beautiful fresh leg of lamb and some root vegetables.
The lamb would be lovely, Angus. We have a couple of hours left before evening mass is over, so you should have enough time to cook it.
I don't have to start it for another hour. No point in it being tough. Can I tempt you with an afternoon libation?
You always know what I need, Angus. Bennu, join us?
I think I will retire until dinner, but thank you.
As you wish.
That Bennu is a sour fellow. He'll do well to relax over a pint or four. Would you care for my red lager?
I've told him as much. And yes, please.
From the travels I've taken you on, the two of you seem to have an unusual relationship. Almost odd, if you don't mind me saying so.
Odd? How do you mean?
Well, it's clear you're not lovers.
Oh, you're certainly astute. No, we're not.
Although it's also clear he would like to be.
Now, in that you're mistaken. He's my second, my aide, if you will. A good and loyal friend. Nothing more.
As you say, miss. Still, I've seen how he looks at you.
You can see his eyes through that hood.
A man exhibits emotion in more than his eyes. You're all he has, and he knows that.
I suppose that's true. I wouldn't have thought it that way, though.
May I ask how the two of you became traveling partners?
Well, it's a complicated story, and not a pretty one. But it started many years ago. Let's just say that we were first enemies, and I was in a position to let him die or help him. I had too many sins weighing down my soul, certainly for that day anyway. And I had a chance to redeem him. I mean, me. I decided to help him at a time when he needed help most. At first, he was not grateful, but he was bound to my side for the debt of my aid, and through that, we gradually developed a working relationship. He's been in my employ ever since.
Quite a tale. You've certainly lived a full life for someone so young.
I'm older than I look, Angus. Now, enough delving into my sordid past. You need to fetch me another of your lovely pints, and then get started on that lamb. Our priest will require the best care we can offer in order to convince him to work with us.
Certainly, miss.
Angus went back into the ship's kitchen to prepare the lamb for dinner, while Evangeline looked deeply into the swirls of her glass and conjured memories that she so often suppressed. Memories from so many centuries ago.
Burn, you ungrateful soul! Let some return to ash!
Evangeline stormed through the smouldering remains of the village she used to call home. Hours before, she had been burned alive at the stake, branded a heretic of the church. Only the small starstone she held in her pocket had protected her from the flames that she had used to set Somnatok on fire. It had fueled her anger and given her a supernatural strength. As she angrily walked among the blazing buildings, she heard something that stopped her in her path and pierced her soul.
No, not children.
At the far end of the village was a small dwelling still burning and about to collapse. A small stone path had prevented the fire from reaching the small house sooner, but now the beams that supported the structure were beginning to collapse. Evangeline's body ached from her ordeal, but she sprinted to the house.
Children, I'm here. I'll save you. I'm going to come in.
A flurry of sparks flew violently into the pale sky as the building collapsed and crushed those within it.
Oh no, Goddess. What have I done?
Evangeline turned to view the entire town of Somnatok that she had just destroyed.
Someone else has to be alive. Someone. I am a healer. I do not slaughter. That is the role of the Christians, not the Valkyrie. Oh, the children, the innocent, their blood on my hands. Oh, what have I done?
Evangeline walked urgently through the ruins of Somnatok, looking with horror at her slaughtered neighbors and the bloodied remains of their children. With her head in her hands, she returned to the town center, the origin of the carnage.
Nothing.
She stepped carefully over the strewn bodies until she reached the still smoldering pyre where she was meant to meet her death.
Would that I had died there. Would that children would still walk and laugh through these streets. Goddess, forgive me.
She glanced at the gruesome body pile nearby, where at the bottom lay her hated nemesis, Kriegerson. She walked over to the pile and began lifting the bodies off, her cosmic strength waning, but still enough to easily lift a grown man. The impaled body of Kriegerson lay at the bottom, burned and bloody, his accusatory eyes closed at last.
Kriegerson, may the goddess show you more mercy than I was able to.
Evangeline jumped backwards in surprise as his body stirred suddenly. Against all odds, Kriegerson was still alive, although clearly hovering close to death.
You speak of her blessing now. The irony is almost amusing.
You still live. Kriegerson, I am no better than you. You slaughtered the Skardoth. I slaughtered your Christians.
It seems we are one and the same. Kill me, Evangeline. Finish your work here. If you have a shred of mercy left in your blackened soul, end my life.
Evangeline was only half listening, though, feeling the power of the Starstone pulse in her pocket again. It whispered to her, letting her feel a power that was positive and good instead of hateful destruction she'd felt earlier.
No more bloodshed.
You witch! You thrice-damned bitch! Have you not done enough? That you must include torture to your sins? Kill me. Give me mercy.
I will do more than that, Kriegerson. I will save you and your mortal soul.
Savior. Like Christ. That would be rich. My life saved by a pagan witch, lived on with pain and disfigurement. I will not live in your debt.
And would you have saved me as I laid at death's door, there on that pyre? No, Kriegerson, you will live, and you will serve me so that I can show you a world where mercy and reason can reign over the worship of an invisible god who espouses love with one word and orders the slaughter of innocents with another.
Evangeline! No!
As Kriegerson lost consciousness, Evangeline removed the Starstone from her pocket, the searing heat having been reduced to simply a warm glow. With close proximity to the dying man, it increased its power to emit the otherworldly energy, to knit together the punctured flesh, to stop the internal bleeding and to heal his brain injuries. But as Evangeline saw the burns begin to heal, and the bone structure of Kriegerson's handsome, proud face returning, she frowned and shook her head. As Evangeline would forever carry the deep scars on her soul from the memory of the atrocities she committed, Kriegerson would also carry his own scars to remember what he had done to her and what he owed her. You have been listening to The Rogue Plague, a Leviathan Chronicles story. This episode was made possible by the generous support of our listeners. To listen ad-free and get exclusive bonus content and behind-the-scenes footage, become a subscriber at patreon.com/Leviathan Chronicles. The Rogue Plague was written by Lafferty and Christof Laputka. Directed by Nobi Nakanishi. Produced by Robin Shaw. Executive produced by Amish Jani. Original music by Luke Allen. Sound design and editing by Luke Allen and Robin Shaw. Starring Laura Post as Evangeline Leifreik, Max Vogler as Bennu, William T.N. Hall as Harlequinn, Todd Butera as Angus McKay, and Samantha Parker as the narrator. For a full cast list and to learn more about our other audio productions, go to leviathanaudioproductions.com or follow us on social media. Thank you for supporting Leviathan Audio, and thank you for listening. Leviathan Audio Production.